Are you starting your day with keto coffee, believing it's accelerating fat loss, only to find the scale not moving, your energy crashing, or your hunger creeping back in? Here's what's really going on inside your body. Keto coffee, often called bulletproof coffee, has exploded in popularity. The idea sounds powerful. Add butter or MCT oil to your coffee, skip breakfast, and your body will burn fat all day. And on the surface, that makes sense. You're reducing carbs, increasing fat, and avoiding insulin spikes. But what if I told you? For many people, keto coffee is actually slowing fat loss, disrupting metabolic signals, and in some cases, even increasing insulin resistance over time. This isn't about whether keto works. Keto absolutely works when applied correctly. The problem is how keto coffee is being used, and more importantly, what's happening hormonally beneath the surface. Because fat loss is not just about eating fat. It's about controlling insulin, supporting the liver, stabilizing cortisol, and allowing your body to access its own stored energy. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Think of your body like a hybrid car. It can run on two fuels, sugar or fat. Keto helps switch you into fat-burning mode. But if you keep pouring fat into the tank every morning before your body has a chance to use its stored fat, you're essentially blocking access to your own fuel reserves. And that's the mistake most people don't realize. In today's video, we're going to break this down step by step. You'll learn when keto coffee actually helps and when it hurts, how insulin really responds to fat plus caffeine, the hidden role of your liver in fat burning, why cortisol might be sabotaging your mornings, and the exact protocol to use keto coffee the right way, if at all. Because once you understand the physiology, everything changes. Here's one of the biggest misconceptions in the keto world. If I drink more fat, I'll burn more fat. It sounds logical, but metabolically, it's incomplete. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Your body is always making a decision. Should I burn the fuel coming in or the fuel I've stored? And the answer is simple. It will always burn what you just gave it first. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your body is like a fireplace. Your stored body fat is the big stack of logs sitting next to it. But every time you drink keto coffee loaded with butter or MCT oil, it's like tossing paper and kindling directly into the fire. Yes, the fire burns. Yes, you see flames. But you're not actually using the big logs. That's exactly what happens metabolically. When you drink keto coffee, your body receives a surge of dietary fat. That fat becomes the primary fuel source. And your stored body fat stays untouched. So even though you're technically burning fat, you're burning the fat you just drank, not the fat you want to lose. And this is where people get stuck. They feel energized. They feel in ketosis. But weeks go by and the scale doesn't move. Because fat loss is not about burning fat. It's about burning your body fat. What the research shows is that total energy balance still matters, even in keto. If you're consistently adding 200 and 400 calories of pure fat every morning without giving your body a reason to tap into stored energy, you can stall fat loss completely. Now, does that mean keto coffee is always bad? No, but it has a specific place and purpose. Here's how to use this insight practically. If your goal is fat loss, delay keto coffee as long as possible in the morning. Allow your body to naturally tap into stored fat first. Consider black coffee or just water with electrolytes. If you're already metabolically healthy or maintaining, small amounts of fat in coffee may be fine, but avoid turning it into a high-calorie meal replacement. If you're using keto coffee for energy, ask yourself, is your body dependent on external fuel or metabolically flexible? Because true metabolic health means your body can access its own energy without needing constant input. And here's the key takeaway I want you to remember. Every time you add fuel, you delay fat burning. Now let's go deeper into the real driver behind fat loss. Not carbs, not calories, but insulin. Because you can be doing keto, drinking keto coffee, avoiding sugar, and still not losing fat. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Insulin is your body's storage hormone. When insulin is elevated, your body is in storage mode. When insulin is low, your body can access stored fat. It's that simple. But here's where things get misunderstood. Many people think, I'm not eating carbs, so my insulin must be low. Not always. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Think of insulin like a gatekeeper to your fat cells. When insulin is high, the gate is closed. Fat is locked inside. When insulin is low, the gate opens and fat can be released and burned. Now, here's the problem with keto coffee. Even though fat doesn't spike insulin like sugar does, it can still create a metabolic response, especially when combined with caffeine, additives, or frequent consumption. For example, creamers or hidden carbs can trigger insulin. Artificial sweeteners may increase insulin in some individuals. Frequent feeding, even with fat, can keep insulin slightly elevated throughout the day. And even a small sustained insulin elevation can be enough to slow fat release. What the research shows is that insulin isn't just about spikes, it's about time under the curve. In other words, it's not just how high insulin goes, it's how long it stays elevated. So if you start your morning with keto coffee, then snack, then eat again. You may never give your body a long enough window of low insulin to access stored fat. This is why some people feel stuck despite doing everything right. Now let's turn this into a practical protocol. Create a daily low insulin window. Delay your first calorie intake, including keto coffee. Aim for 12-16 hours of fasting if appropriate for your body. Audit your coffee carefully. Remove artificial sweeteners. Avoid flavored creamers or hidden sugars. Keep ingredients simple and intentional. Reduce frequency of intake. Instead of constant sipping, create clear meal boundaries. Give your body time between fuel inputs. Watch your body's signals, hunger patterns, energy stability, waistline changes, because insulin isn't something you feel directly, but it's something your results will always reflect. And here's the key takeaway. Keto lowers insulin, but your habits determine whether it stays low long enough to burn fat. Let's shift your focus to the organ that quietly determines whether you burn fat efficiently or stay stuck. Your liver. Because here's what most people don't realize. Ketosis doesn't happen in your fat cells. It happens in your liver. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Your liver is responsible for converting fat into ketones, a clean, efficient fuel your brain and body can use. This process is what defines true fat-burning metabolism. But your liver has a limit. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Think of your liver like a processing factory. It takes in raw materials, fatty acids, and converts them into usable energy, ketones. Now imagine what happens when that factory is already busy, and you keep sending in more raw material every single morning in the form of keto coffee. At first, it keeps up, but over time, it gets backlogged. And instead of increasing fat burning, your body may slow down ketone production, store excess fat temporarily, or prioritize processing incoming fat rather than mobilizing stored fat. This is especially important if your liver is already under stress. And let's be honest, many people today have some level of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, even without knowing it. What the research shows is that liver health is directly tied to insulin sensitivity, fat metabolism, and long-term weight regulation. If the liver is inflamed, overfed, or constantly processing incoming fuel, your ability to burn stored fat drops significantly. Now let's connect this back to keto coffee. When you drink high-fat coffee first thing in the morning, you're giving your liver an immediate workload before it has a chance to tap into stored fat or complete its natural overnight detox and repair processes. So instead of enhancing fat burning, you may be interrupting it. Now here's how to use this insight in a practical, powerful way. Support your liver before you feed it. Start your morning with water plus electrolytes. Allow at least 1 to 2 hours before introducing calories. Use empty mornings strategically. Let your body naturally produce ketones from stored fat. This strengthens metabolic flexibility, reduce unnecessary fat loading. Keto is not about more fat, it's about better fat timing. Eat fat with meals, not constantly between them. Support liver function naturally. Prioritize sleep. This is when liver repair happens. Include bitter foods like greens to stimulate bile flow. Consider nutrients like choline, eggs, magnesium, and B vitamins. And here's the key idea I want you to lock in. Your liver decides whether you burn fat, and overfeeding it fat can actually slow that process down. If this is helping you rethink how your metabolism really works, consider subscribing. I share daily science-based strategies to help you take control of your health naturally. Next, we're going to uncover a hidden hormonal trigger that most people overlook. how caffeine plus fat may be raising cortisol and quietly blocking fat loss. Now let's talk about something most people never connect to their keto coffee. Cortisol, your primary stress hormone. Because you can be doing everything right, low carb, high fat, skipping sugar, but if cortisol is elevated at the wrong time, it can quietly block fat loss. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Cortisol follows a natural rhythm. It's supposed to rise in the morning to wake you up, mobilize energy, and sharpen focus. That's healthy. But when you stack caffeine on top of that natural cortisol peak, especially on an empty stomach, you can push cortisol too high. Now add keto coffee into the mix, high fat plus caffeine, and you create a very specific metabolic signal. We are under stress. Release energy quickly. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Think of cortisol like an emergency alarm system. When it goes off, your body prepares for action, not fat loss. It raises blood sugar by telling your liver, release glucose now, we need quick fuel. And when blood sugar rises, and what follows? Insulin, even if you didn't eat carbs. So now you have this sequence. Caffeine spikes cortisol. Cortisol raises blood sugar. Blood sugar triggers insulin, and insulin blocks fat burning. All of this can happen from a simple cup of keto coffee. This is why some people experience belly fat that won't budge, energy crashes after the initial boost, increased cravings later in the day, feeling wired but tired. What the research shows is that chronic cortisol elevation is strongly linked to increased abdominal fat storage, insulin resistance, disrupted circadian rhythms. And timing matters here. Drinking coffee immediately upon waking, when cortisol is already high, can amplify this effect. But delaying caffeine allows your natural rhythm to stabilize first. Now let's turn this into a simple, effective protocol. Delay caffeine by 60-90 minutes after waking. Let your natural cortisol peak do its job. Then use caffeine strategically, not reactively. Avoid caffeine on an empty, stressed system. If you're sleep deprived or under chronic stress, be cautious. Consider pairing coffee with a proper meal instead of isolated fat. Watch your body's feedback. Do you crash mid-morning? Do you feel anxious or jittery? Is your sleep affected later in the day? Support cortisol balance naturally. Morning sunlight exposure, consistent sleep schedule, electrolytes and hydration first thing in the morning. Because here's the truth most people miss. Fat loss is not just about food, it's about hormonal timing. Is keto coffee the same as fasting? The answer is simple. No, it's not fasting. And that distinction matters more than most people realize. Here's what's really going on inside your body. A true fast is a zero-calorie state. No incoming energy, no digestion, no metabolic distraction. In that state, your body is forced to do something incredibly powerful. It switches from external fuel to internal fuel. That's when you unlock deeper fat burning. But more importantly, you activate processes like autophagy. Autophagy is your body's internal cleanup system. It removes damaged cells, recycles proteins, and supports long-term health, anti-aging, and metabolic efficiency. But here's the key. Autophagy requires a low insulin, low nutrient environment. Now think about what happens when you drink keto coffee. Even though it's low in carbs, it still contains calories, fat molecules that require processing, signals that tell your body fuel is coming in. And the moment that happens, your body shifts out of a true fasted state. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your body is in deep cleaning mode overnight. It's repairing, recycling, and burning stored fuel. But the moment you drink keto coffee, it's like someone walking into the room and saying, "Stop cleaning. We've got new supplies to deal with." So the body pauses internal work and switches to processing what you just consumed. Now, is that always bad? Not necessarily, but it depends entirely on your goal. If your goal is deep fat loss plus metabolic healing, prioritize true fasting in the morning. Stick to water, black coffee, or electrolytes. Delay calories, including keto coffee. If your goal is mental performance or transition into keto, keto coffee can be used occasionally as a bridge. But it should not replace proper metabolic training. If you're stuck in a plateau, removing morning fat intake can often unlock progress because it restores access to stored energy. What the research and clinical experience both show is this. Fasting amplifies fat loss not just by reducing calories, but by changing hormonal signals at a deeper level. And when you interrupt that signal early in the day, you may be slowing the very process you're trying to accelerate. Here's the key takeaway. Keto coffee mimics fasting, but it does not replicate its benefits. By now, you can probably see the pattern. Keto coffee is not inherently good or bad. It's a tool. And like any tool, its effectiveness depends entirely on how and when you use it. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Your metabolism is not static. It changes based on your insulin sensitivity, your liver health, your stress levels, and your metabolic flexibility. So the same keto coffee that helps one person can completely stall another. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Think of keto coffee like training wheels on a bike. For someone just starting keto, coming off high sugar, frequent hunger, and energy crashes, it can provide stable energy, reduced cravings, a smoother transition into fat burning. But here's the problem. If you never remove the training wheels, you never fully develop metabolic independence. You stay dependent on incoming fuel instead of accessing your own stored energy. And that's where most people get stuck. So let's break this down into clear, practical use cases. When keto coffee can be helpful, during early keto adaptation, helps reduce carb cravings, provides mental clarity while your body learns to burn fat. For extended mental performance, long work sessions, studying or deep focus, when food is not easily available, in therapeutic or clinical settings, certain neurological conditions may benefit from higher ketone levels. Under professional guidance, when keto coffee can hold you back. If your goal is fat loss, especially stubborn fat or plateau, it delays access to stored body fat. If you have insulin resistance, even small disruptions can slow progress. If you rely on it daily for energy, this signals poor metabolic flexibility. If you're dealing with belly fat plus stress, cortisol plus fat intake can worsen the issue. The optimal protocol, science-based and practical. If you choose to use keto coffee, use it with intention. Delay it, wait at least 60-90 minutes after waking. Allow natural cortisol rhythm and fat burning first. Use it occasionally, not daily. 2-3 times per week max. If fat loss is your goal, keep it clean. Black coffee plus small amount of MCT oil or butter, no sweeteners, no hidden carbs. Pair with your goals. Fat loss, avoid or minimize. Maintenance, moderate use. Performance, strategic use. Cycle it. Periods of use followed by periods of true fasting. This restores metabolic sensitivity. And here's the deeper principle I want you to understand. Your goal is not to become good at drinking keto coffee. Your goal is to become good at burning your own fat, because that's where real energy, real fat loss, and real metabolic freedom come from. Because after all the science, all the physiology, and all the mechanisms, the goal is not complexity. The goal is control over your metabolism. Here's what we've uncovered today. Keto coffee is not magic. It is not fat loss insurance. And it is not a substitute for metabolic health. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Your ability to burn fat depends on a delicate balance of insulin regulation, keeping storage signals low enough to access fat, liver function, converting fat into usable ketones efficiently, cortisol rhythm, ensuring stress hormones don't override fat metabolism, fasting windows, giving your body time to switch into deep fat-burning mode, and most importantly, metabolic flexibility. That is your body's ability to switch between fuel sources without getting stuck. We also learned something critical today. Just because something is keto-friendly does not mean it automatically supports fat loss. Keto coffee can support energy and focus in some people, help during adaptation phases, or quietly block fat loss if misused daily, especially in stressed or insulin-resistant individuals. The difference is not the drink. The difference is your physiology and your timing. So let's simplify everything into one clear truth. Fat loss happens when insulin is low. Fat burning deepens when fasting is uninterrupted. Hormones determine results more than food labels ever will. Now here's your challenge. Don't change everything at once. Instead, try just one shift this week. Delay your morning calories, or replace keto coffee with black coffee, or create a 14-16 hour fasting window, or simply stop eating immediately upon waking. Then observe your body like a scientist. Energy levels, hunger signals, waistline changes, mental clarity. because your body will always respond to hormonal inputs faster than it responds to diet trends. And that's the real takeaway today. When you understand your metabolism, you stop guessing and start directing your biology. If this helped you see keto coffee and fat loss in a completely new way, consider liking the video and subscribing. I share content like this every day, breaking down complex metabolic science into simple, actionable tools you can use to take control of your health naturally, without confusion and without extremes. Stay consistent, stay curious, and most importantly, stay in control of your metabolism.